Hey guys, new video for Path of Exile. So in this video, we're going to go over two things. First of all, basically Recombinators, you can use them to transfer grasping mail mods over to different item bases. Alright, so if that's all you came to watch, it works. It's like a 1 in 4 chance. Go knock yourself out, make a bunch of these. Very easy to make. I've tried like, out of about 7 or 8 tries, I made 2 of them, or like successfully transferred the mod over. So pretty easy to make. I think, yeah, this is going to change quite a lot of crafting or like build opportunities for a lot of builds that, could want to use these bases, including Armor Secker. All right, so let's go over basically how you do it. Well, I think like if you don't know anything about recombinating, probably the best thing to do is go look up Passive Math on YouTube. In Sentinel League, he made a really good video explaining how the recombinators work, and from what I've seen, they do basically use the same rules. Maybe the people are saying the chances or something are lower, but honestly, I think the people on Reddit just don't know what they're talking about, because most people on Reddit said you can't transfer grasping mail mods over. I still think it's the same rules. Basically, maybe there is some kind of lower chance or whatever. I haven't really had a chance to test it, but basically 1 in 4 chance to move the mod over, so that's pretty nice. So the way I went about making this armor is basically, I don't really have any more bases or dust to actually show you guys live, but I bought a bunch of these like grasping mills with just a single fire overcap, and pretty much all of the prefixes were full on that item. Can't really YOLO and null that, so basically I was just throwing grasping nails at these Vault Regalia bases or Twilight Regalia bases, and even with that, it was like moving over like at least 1 in 4, 1 in 5 times. Now I guess we'll get into like the crafting part of the video for the Armor Stacker build. The build that we're going to be using this item on is going to be an Armor Stacker build, of course. This build is, if you're not really familiar with the build, it's kind of like the Affliction Armor Stacker basically. And in Affliction, Armor Stacker was pretty insane on Scion because Scion got to use 2 swords. Whenever Scion gets to use 2 swords, you're in for a good time, because Scion has a lot of really good damage in her ascendancy, as well as really strong recovery. So this build, if we just take a look at the like sort of medium budget POB, you can see that we're having over like 500 million DPS. Max hit is like 186k with our Molten Shell up. Without it, it's like 100k. So very nice max hit. You see ES 8000, and the more crazy thing is, if we look in actual like POB, take a look at the ES regen, like 4000 ES regen, and this can go up like quite a bit more, like when you use things like your Defiance banner. So you go like 5k ES regen, and once you get more gear, more aura effect, this ES regen will go to like 6,000, maybe even 7,000 ES regen per second. The max, the ES regen you're going to get on the very expensive, top high budget build is going to be like maybe even 10k ES. So it's going to be pretty insane damage wise and defense wise. Yeah, so I'm actually still making items for the build so I can swap over. Don't really have all of the rare gear crafted yet, but I did make this like really like basic armor to sort of test the build out. The way I crafted this is, I think there's 2 ways to craft it, right? So a cheap way is going to be, you have a fractured energy shield on your regalia, and then you craft on any kind of prefix to match a prefix, hopefully that's on the grasping mail. So the grasping mail has like overcap mod and life, then you would craft life on your regalia, and hopefully what you want to happen is you transfer over the overcap mod and you keep your fractured energy shield. And then once you get that, basically you just work on the suffixes with the Eldritch currency until you have something that's acceptable, and then craft on energy shield, and it's pretty much done, right? I mean, I guess you have to do implicits and that kind of stuff, but pretty easy to craft. More expensive way to do it would be to just move over the overcap mod without any other fractures, and then fracture the overcap mod with I guess with locks or something like that, and then you would just do the prefixes with like Reforged Defense, and then do the suffixes and unveil like the ES regen mod. Even going further, you could try to move over a global defense as well as the fire overcap mod, and then have a chest with a global defense and overcap. But that is sort of getting quite a bit more expensive and probably into the mirror tier. So probably I think for most people you just do it with the fractured energy shield and be able to make a very nice base. Like 800 ES just with this is pretty crazy. All right, so let's get into crafting the item. And this first example is going to be the cheap way to craft it, right? So we successfully transferred over the overcap mod to our regalia, and we have our fractured energy shield. It's better to actually have increased energy shield. The one I have just had flat energy shield, but increased energy shield, because at the end we're going to craft a mod. You're going to get more energy shield if you have the increased energy shield, you know, as your tier 1 mod. I guess if you do get a tier 1 mod. Okay, so we have this out of the way. So what we do now is, well, we're just going to work on the suffixes. So what you do is you add the Eater of Worlds implicit so that we can use, well, I guess we can use normal exalts or eldritch exalts. If you want to use normal exalts, then you're going to have to craft on a prefix. So we don't actually add something here. Let's just add on life. If you use eldritch exalts, then you don't need to, and you can actually block a mod. So I guess I'll leave that up to you. You can choose whichever one you want. But let's just add life, for example. I mean, it's kind of how I did it, right? So we add life, and then we go exalt. Like we got fire resistance. Okay, go again. Oh, hey, we got intelligence. Pretty good. And then we just kind of keep going. Okay, lightning res, right? If this is fine for you, then that's great. Then you can, if you don't really like the results, what you can do is you can go over to the eldritch currency, eldritch chaos, keep going until, like, okay, we got some fire resistance. Go again. Okay, that's kind of bad. Let's go back to the eldritch chaos. Okay, that's kind of bad too. Yep, that's really bad. And oh wow, regen 1 life per second. Oh wow, this is actually pretty nice. All right, so let's just say, okay, we want to keep this. So let's keep this, and then we'll just craft on the energy shield, right? Okay, so that's basically how you craft a very cheap way to craft it. And then after that, you just do the implicits with the eldritch currency for aura effect and grace aura effect. Okay, so let's see what would happen if we want to make a more expensive item. Let's undo all of this. Basically, what we want to do is we want to basically fracture the fire overcap mod, right? And you do this with Hinokor's locks and a fracturing orb, pretty much. I know it's like a 1 in 4 chance, so it is kind of expensive to do this. Depending on how easy it is to actually make these regalia bases, maybe if it's cheaper to make this base, then you can skip the Hinokor's lock and then just YOLO fracture these items, right? And I think you could probably even sell the bricks, so maybe that is actually better to just do it that way. I'm not really sure how, you know, the prices will adjust, but something to think about. All right, so now that we have this, what we can do is we can go to harvest and we can reforge defense. I guess you can use fossils as well, and we just reforge defense until we get oh, we're doing the wrong one here. Reforge defense until we get tier 1, and then we can just do exalted orb. It's not really that good, so we'll just keep doing this reforge defense until we get tier 1. Oh, that was tier 1. Energy shield. All right, so let's just say we get it. Let's keep kind of like doing this until we actually get our energy shield. But let's just add the energy shield on to make it faster. Okay, so now we have our energy shield over here. And for the suffixes, what we're going to do is basically the same thing as before with the Eater of Worlds implicit, eldritch chaos, until you have probably intelligence and fire resistance. But let's just say this is like this, and then we'll add on. And I guess the reason you want intelligence is because getting a lot of energy shield is the way you build your defenses after endurance charges on this build. So getting as much energy shield as possible is going to be pretty important. If you're really ballsy, you can do prefixes can't be changed, veiled orb, and try to get the ES regen mod. If not, then you just craft it on. All right, so that's kind of 2 different ways that you can craft this body armor. All right, well, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.